Hey everyone, it's Michael. I hope you're doing well today. This is my third ever review, and it's my also third game review I've ever done for the channel. This is for a game that I also grew up on. It's my second ever Grand Theft Auto game that I ever got to play. The same cousin who introduced me to GTA San Andreas not too long after that, basically, possibly even in the same weekend, introduced me to this particular game, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, which came out 2 years before San Andreas. I don't know what entry it was. I think it was technically GTA 4, if we're being honest, because it was after GTA 3. Anyway, this game came out in 2002, and it is wonderful. I actually played this a lot when I was a kid, a teenager, whatever. Probably sometime after 2004 to 2005, 2006, somewhere in that ballpark. I played San Andreas for the first time because of this cousin, Trenton. And then eventually I worked my way into Vice City at some point. After I beat San Andreas, I was obsessed with that. I beat Saints Row 1 and 2, I believe, at the time. I was obsessed with those for a long time. I think Saints Row kind of carries on the legacy of what GTA was. I may have even beaten GTA 4 before I got around to really playing Vice City a whole lot, but I'm fairly certain I owned it by that point. I'm currently sitting right in front of my copy that I've always owned, as a matter of fact. Black label and everything. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is amazing. It's amazing. It's one of the very few games out there that are set in the 1980s. It's one of the very few games out there that started this idea of having a big, leading Hollywood cast. No matter what you think about Ray Liotta, who plays the main character, Tommy Vercetti. I almost said Tom Vercetti. Tommy Vercetti. He's fantastic. He is Tommy for me. I grew up watching things like Goodfellas on the TV version. Don't worry, moms and dads out there. I loved Ray Liotta. I love Narc. I think he's a wonderful actor. I think that it is so sad that I never spent the time in my life to play this all the way through because I didn't realize he would be gone this year in 2022. In case you don't know, Ray Liotta actually passed away. Let me bring it up really quick. He passed away on May 26th of 2022, and oddly enough, the creepiest thing that happened to me was that the weekend before he died, I finished San Andreas on a Saturday, and I think the Sunday, the very next day after, I picked up Vice City, decided to start playing through that because I've been on a big GTA kick recently. I wanted to beat it for the first time ever, because I've never beaten it, never beaten the entire story. And I decided to try to take out the time to do that. And not even like 3 days later, I think it was a Wednesday when he passed away, I hear the news, my mom sends it to me on Facebook Messenger of all things. And it broke my heart. It absolutely broke my heart. I love Ray Liotta. I wish nothing but the best for him and his family. It's so sad to know that he's gone. He's one of my childhood actors that I just love. He's one of those guys that gets kind of a reputation of not being the best actor ever, but he's one of those guys like Al Pacino that when he is really involved in a role or a series or anything, he just kills it. He absolutely kills it. He is an icon of American culture, and I will stand by that as long as I live. I miss the guy. I'm sorry Ray is gone. Anyway, he is Tommy Vercetti for me. He's one of the characters that defined my teenage years of playing and getting into 1980s themed stuff. Of course, I grew up on Breakfast Club. I grew up on 16 Candles, St. Elmo's Fire. Eventually, Better Off Dead was a big staple of my teenhood that I really loved deeply. Ferris Bueller's Day Off, all of these movies that I loved that my mom showed me, and some I found on my own. So, for example, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, if it weren't for my cousin who had got me into this, I don't think I would be as exposed to 80s culture and music as much as I was, even with the movies that I grew up on. You can't possibly even put this game on and listen to the intro or watch the intro to the game and not get stoked by this. Yes, I mentioned Al Pacino a minute ago. It's kind of a retelling of Scarface as a game. It borrows a lot from Scarface. A lot. A lot of Tommy Vercetti is based on Scarface himself. Can't remember his name. Tony Montana. I almost forgot. A lot of his character is focused on being Tony Montana, aside from being Cuban and whatever. But Tommy Vercetti, essentially to get into the story, is a fellow who just moved his way into Vice City. He's involved with drugs and whatever after he got out of jail, from what I understand. And essentially a drug deal goes wrong in like the first 5 minutes of you playing this game. He escapes just by the skin of his teeth, essentially. And he gets kind of in a bad situation, owes some guys some money. And it gets worse and worse. He meets a fellow named Lance Vance at one point, gets involved with him. All of these things are good. I want it to be known. For me personally, I'm not really sure what I think the best Grand Theft Auto story of all time is for these games. It could be anything from Lost and Damned, it could be 4, it could be Ballad of Gay Tony, I really like that. San Andreas really cuts out to be the top notch for me in a lot of ways, but I really like Lost and Damned as well as DLC or anything for that matter. Vice City has a good story. It's not one of the best, in my opinion, but it is a good one. And this time around, I actually was able to finish it. Thank God, because I realized what I'd been doing wrong for ages. There's one particular helicopter mission that's a pain in the ass. You guys probably know what I'm talking about. It involves construction work on a construction site. Big pain in the ass. Anyway, aside from that particular thing, there were certain things you have to do later on in the game that if you didn't know, if somebody hadn't told you, if you weren't just playing the game just to play the game and doing random things just to do random things, you would never know how to beat this game. It's bullshit. It's flat out bullshit. For such a great game, it is flawed, just like all GTA games are. They have their flaws here and there. There's always something you can nitpick about anything, of any sort, not even just GTA, but just anything. That is one of the few nitpicks about this game I have, because everything else is magnificent. I love the guns, I love the sound effects, I love the fucking radio stations, man. The radio stations, you can have it on literally any radio station, and all of it be good. You could have Michael Jackson 1 second, the next second you could have it on a straight-up rock station like V-Rock. V-Rock was my childhood from this game, and also from Vice City Stories for the PSP, which I still own. And I played the hell out of that, listening to V-Rock most of the time. Never beat that game, as a matter of fact. But Vice City has such a great radio station that even the Lost and Damned did its own radio station to reference back to this game, in the kind of 80s throwback music it typically plays, even though Lost and Damned doesn't take place in the 80s. This game is magnificent. The cover art, as you can tell, is wonderful. It's powerful. It's a very atmospheric game. It's probably, to me, as much as people blow up about GTA 3, I understand that was revolutionary at the time, but I do want to say that when I look at this game now, GTA Vice City, I think this and most of these games top GTA 3 like it's nothing. GTA 3, I like the environment, I like Liberty City's design there. I don't like that game that much. I'm gonna be honest with you, I just don't. I've never beaten it, as a matter of fact. Maybe with the definitive edition, maybe I will. But I'm trying to play through the PS2 versions and the Xbox versions and so on before I work my way up to the definitive edition versions. I've kind of started on San Andreas a little bit, but not really. I have my nitpicks. I have my qualms, just like anybody about definitive edition. But anyway, the 80s style to this. It's not just a setting. It's not just an atmosphere. It's a style. It completely envelops you, and even when you finish the story, you just want to drive around, act cool, listen to music, hit jumps from building to building, which, by the way, there's another mission in here that's fucking insane to me, that you have to go from rooftop to rooftop with a fucking motorcycle. That is ridiculous. You have no idea how many times I went through that. Never dealt with it before. It was bullshit, and I hate that mission. The game is very cartoonish, but this is what I talked about in my San Andreas review. San Andreas realized how fun GTA is in general, so it went all out. You had cheat codes for, jetpacks and that kind of thing. You had 3 different weapon sets and whatnot. This game has so much wackiness and insanity to it. The characters are not as over the top as some in GTA San Andreas. San Andreas, of course, you have characters who literally masturbate throughout the entire game. You have a blind guy named Woozy. You have what would be considered nowadays, and maybe possibly by GTA 6 if that comes out the way that Rockstar's kind of advertising it. I'm worried about it. If it ends up being woke, they're going to trash old stuff like this that have stereotypes that fit. This game is so much fun. I love it deeply. I'm glad that I finally got to beat it, the story mode at least, for the first time ever. And I really dig it. I highly recommend Grand Theft Auto Vice City. If you've never played it before, you're really missing out. Everything from the motorcycles to the Infernus. I wish we could get Infernus cars designed, in the newer games that look like this. And I like how the Ballad of Gay Tony kind of referenced back to a lot of this, that kind of style, the flare, the neon, all those things. There's just so much in here that the fans loved for a reason. And I kind of wish GTA 6 would bring in Vice City. Maybe not just have Vice City, maybe have some recreations of a lot of this stuff, but maybe have some other things too. Maybe have it be a portion of the map, you know? Instead of the entire map. Of course, the modern GTA games are massive. This map, going from San Andreas back to this, was so weird to me on the PS2 because it just felt so much smaller. Not secluded, but it felt more compact and it felt better. I hate how there are loading times between every region that you drive in. That's one of the big things I'm so glad San Andreas got rid of. You know, it's a thing back in the day with the discs. I get it. I don't think it's in the definitive edition. I don't know for sure, but I don't think it is. There's some improvements they did there that are great. Another thing to talk about, too, that I really like here are the motion blur, which reminds me a lot of the 80s, like when you watch certain movies back then, like Risky Business. The taillights are on the screen. They kind of have like almost like a flare, like a lens flare type of thing going on. There's a lot of motion blur like that can sometimes make you sick if you're driving too fast, if something's happening, or if it starts raining, where you have the motion blur, you have that lens flare look, like J.J. Abrams just, showed up all of a sudden or something. And then you also have the raindrops falling on the screen that they also removed from San Andreas, which really fits for the style here. I don't know why I like that so much, but I really do. It really works for this game. This game, Vice City, is wonderful. And even the spin-off, Vice City Stories, is really good. It's really, really good. Just as atmospheric. I probably played that more than I played this when I was growing up, on PSP, like I said. Grand Theft Auto Vice City is a masterpiece. It's fantastic. Yes, I have my complaints. Hell yes, I have my problems with it, just like anybody does about anything. It's not entirely perfect, but it's so close to being a masterpiece, dude, in so many ways of gaming history. One of my favorite things I used to do was go watch Lord Carnage here on YouTube and watch his review over and over again. And then the recent censorship started happening ever since, Steven Crowder got in trouble with YouTube's bullshit. And they started censoring everybody, even more than they used to. And Lord Carnage, which used to be Classic Game Room, they had to remove, I Ran So Far Away from the opening to their video, their review of this game years ago. God knows how many millions of views that video had because of that song, because of the way it was edited, because of the humor, and it killed that channel, which pisses me off. When I look back at that channel, I see how it's fallen apart. It upsets me, because YouTube killed that damn channel. Anyway, with that being said, I Ran So Far Away is the national anthem of this game for me. It's amazing. I love it. Everything you could want from this, whether it be Phil Collins, Michael Jackson on music, any of that stuff, it's all here. It is so good. It's not perfect. I have my complaints as a fan, but I love it. And it may very well be the second best Grand Theft Auto game ever made, behind San Andreas for me, possibly. I'm not really sure. I'm kind of, like I said, playing through all these again. Never played the original two, so I don't know much about those. Never played London, don't know much about that. I don't know much about Advance on Game Boy. But when it comes to the main console games, this for me is right behind San Andreas as the best at this current moment, before I've replayed Lost and Damned, Vice City, or GTA 4, all those things. Anyway, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. What do you think about it? What is your favorite Grand Theft Auto game? Is this it? Why is it this? That's another big thing, too, I want to ask. I love the city here. I love the design and the format of the city. That's another big thing I love about it. Some of the missions are kind of unfair, particularly the shooting range. I think that's bullshit, too. There's some great characters in here, like Phil, that I really like. It's just great. The humor's great. The humor's sometimes even better here, and even aged better from this game than it did with San Andreas, which is wild to me. Anyway, Grand Theft Auto Vice City. If I had to rate this game on a 5-star basis, I'd probably give it a 5 out of 5. I know I said it's not perfect, but the things I'm complaining about are things that other people would not complain about. Those are kind of subjective in a lot of ways. But even so, I love the game dearly. I have a lot of memories with it, a lot of memories with my cousin and my best friends and stuff growing up playing this game, all of us together on PlayStation 2. I'm glad I still have my copy, thank God, and I can still play it. And I had a blast this time around as a full-grown adult playing this game for the first time in years, and finally beating it. That was a big achievement, to my opinion, in my life. That was a big achievement in my life. It sounds stupid. It sounds childish. I don't fucking care. Anyway, Grand Theft Auto Vice City, 5 out of 5 stars from me. What do you guys think about it? Put your thoughts and comments down below. I would love to hear what you have to say about it. Thank you for watching. God bless you, and goodbye.